Good morning, Chasm listeners. It's Saturday, March 6, 2021. This is Nathan Hylla, Projects Manager with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District with your conservation report this week. So we were looking for a volunteer last week to complete the radio tape, and I volunteered, didn't realize I had it 2 weeks in a row, so you'll be hearing from me again this week. So hopefully you're okay with that. Chasm listeners, this weekend calls for 50-degree temperatures. What it seems like mid-April weather is occurring here in early March. So I'm sure most of you are getting excited about getting out in the fields and getting crops planted and planting trees and doing things that springtime activities that you normally would do. I am as well. So enjoy these days. Maybe get out and do a little bit of ice fishing. Don't forget you need a fishing license starting on March 1st. So if you had a fishing license for 2020, make sure you go out and buy a new one for this year. This week I want to cover a few things. The first thing that I get asked to do a lot of speaking in several areas across the state, and I enjoy that. That's one of my strengths. But this time I was asked to participate in what's called a locally led conservation training series, and I just want to explain to the listeners and the landowners out there that what you say and you as landowners do have input. And as the projects manager, I like to see our staff go out and visit with folks across the county about programs that we have in our office. What do farmers, what do landowners, what do lakeshore owners want? In terms of clean water quality improvements, wildlife habitat. I mean, what are the programs that you want? And once a year, we go through what's called the local work group. That's where citizens, partners, agency staff get together, and we get in a room and we talk about some of the priorities that we feel that we should be working on in Stearns County. Most of you, if not some of you, are maybe not aware of this, but I'm not arrogant, but I work in probably the best SWCD, Soil and Water Conservation District, and Natural Resources Conservation Service in the nation. Our county commissioners have been extremely supportive of the efforts here of us providing some funding, and that's why we get a lot of work done. We bring dollars back into the county. We do a lot of things here in Stearns County that if you cross county borders may not do as much. So I'm proud to say that I'm part of that effort. And part of it stems from this locally led effort, this meeting of people that get together that share their concerns and share their ideas and how to make conservation programs better. So we appreciate that. As part of this, a locally led effort, just even one-on-one discussions with staff. If you are interested in visiting about opportunities in Stearns County, give me a call here. I'd be happy to visit. I'm usually the first point of contact for a lot of landowners. But we gather input not just at these meetings, but all the time. So I think locally led means it's locally led. It's not led by someone in St. Paul, and it's not led by someone in Washington. And what we do say and what we do recommend does make a difference. So feel free to call. My number here, my direct line is 320-345-6490. If I'm not there, if I'm working remotely, leave a message. That should transfer right over to my computer as well. So again, feel free to call me if you've got any local input. And if we call sometime to ask about participating in a focus group or a farmer-led council or a landowner council, please do so if you have that interest. Your input does matter. Speaking of input, some of you may be receiving a phone call if you're in what we call the All Acres for Our Water program area. We call it AAFOW. So in other words, when you work with the government, there's lots of what we call acronyms, or basically letters for certain programs. NRCS, SWCD, CSP, EQIP. Those are some terms that we throw out, but the general public may not know what that means. Basically, this All Acres for Our Water program is this unique, fantastic opportunity for landowners to participate in conservation programs. There'll be a lot of future funding opportunities for this area, as well as current funding opportunities to implement conservation. So my job and two other staff members here in the office will be not necessarily cold calling, but just visiting with farmers in this area. And this area is basically from Richmond to St. Martin. and in a nutshell, and anything that drains to the Sauk River. So you have to be in the Sauk River watershed. So if you receive a call from us in the next couple of weeks, we'll be asking for your input and interest in participating in conservation programs. And I should mention, if you are a landowner, chasm listener, listening in this area that I just described, you may want to consider making some improvements in terms of conservation. Cover crops. We'll lay the program out for you. We'll talk you through the process, but now is the time for you folks. We want to figure out what it takes for producers and farmers to do things and landowners to do things. So this is a very, very special time for those folks in that area. So if this model works, then may transfer to other watersheds as well. So if you do receive a phone call from Mark, Tessa, or Nate, that's what we'll be talking about with you. Speaking of which, phone calls, I should mention that we do have a new prioritization model in the office. As I mentioned, I'm usually a lot of the times the first point of contact for landowners. And over the past several years, the demand for services, I've been here for a little over 14 years, and the demand for services has not gone down. With that being said, we have so many landowners on the list that we're going to start asking some tough questions of you landowners and farmers out there. For those that come into the office and are interested in putting in, let's say, a waste storage facility, that would be a manure pit, a stacking slab, something of that nature. We may ask some more difficult questions of you folks based on some of the criteria that we need to follow. Are you willing to contribute 25% of your own funding to this project? If there's extra cash, now with commodity prices hopefully going up, maybe there is that time to make those improvements. But there has to be a contribution on your part to participate in a lot of these programs. And are you willing to complete a whole farm conservation plan? Looking at the entire operation from field by field, is that something that you want to consider? And to participate in a lot of these funding opportunities, the answer should be yes. Because a lot of those, the more you do, the better chance you have to get funded. We've had a lot of people in the last few years not get funded. So we're trying to prioritize, are you willing to chip in your own money? Are you willing to complete a whole farm plan? Are you willing to do more if we ask that of you, just because that's how the scoring and ranking works? Are you willing to wait 2 years? Yeah, it seems like a long time. When I walk into the office, I want something that, in a year or less. I don't want it in 2 years, but sometimes it takes that planning process 2 years to get through. So when and if you're interested in programs, we'll visit with you, but we'll be asking questions like this as we work through this process. So I just want to let landowners in Stearns County know that we've developed this new prioritization model, and we might be asking some of these questions moving forward. So have a great week. Enjoy the warm weather this weekend. It's supposed to be in the 50s. Get out, enjoy some sunshine. We could all use it. Next week, you'll be hearing from Chris Hogue, who's our NRCS team lead with the Natural Resources Conservation Service here in Wade Park. You'll be hearing from him and giving his conservation report. And again, this is Nathan Hylla, Projects Manager with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District, with your conservation report for Saturday, March 6th. Have a great weekend.